Hi, and welcome to Strategies for Winning Government Business. My name is Nicole Matthews, and I'll be available to assist with most technical issues that may arise. If you have trouble connecting, please email me at nmatthews@same.org, or you can also call WebEx directly at 1-866-779-3239. You can also send a direct message via the Q&A box located at the bottom right of your monitor. During this presentation, please submit all your questions to our speaker through the Q&A box and send to all panelists. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. A link to the recording will be made available to all attendees within 3 business days. In one last addition, we will also have a short poll that's going to open for about 5 minutes. If you could please take time to enter the poll, that will help us just gauge the presentation going forward. So with that, I'll hand it over to our moderator, Alexander Masters. Alex, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of SAME, I welcome you to our webinar today, Government Sales Strategies That Work. I am Alex Masters, National Director of Sales and Government Services at AIS out of Michigan, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. I serve as the Vice Chair of Education and Training for the Small Business Council at SAME, and we are the sponsor for this webinar today. The mission of the Small Business Council is to promote the role and relevance of small business in SAME through outreach, training, opportunity, and recognition. The Small Business Council is committed to keeping SAME members informed with the most up-to-date information from the world of small business. We inform SAME of technical programs of interest to small business members, providing opportunities to meet with key military decision makers, represent small business interests on select SAME national committees, and keep members informed on small business regulations and legislation. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the Small Business Council activities, please join our email distribution list and follow us on LinkedIn, where we post details and provide a venue for members to dialogue with each other. This webinar today would not be possible without our presenter, Jackie Santisteban, so I'd like to sincerely thank her for her participation and support of the small business community and SAME. I also want to thank Nicole Matthews as well for her assistance today. I also want to thank you for joining us. I look forward to the presentation and our Q&A session that will immediately follow. You are welcome to submit questions throughout the presentation as they arise. I will make sure to address a few of them during the presentation, and then any that we might not be able to get to, we'll make sure to present or discuss at the end of the presentation today. As Nicole mentioned, please use the Q&A chat box in order to submit those questions for our review and discussion. After this webinar, you will automatically be routed to a survey page. Please participate in the short poll so that we can address any concerns for future webinars. I'd now like to introduce our speaker who will lead the discussion today. Ms. Santisteban has 15 years of experience in commercial sales, and for the past 16 years, she has owned her own business as a government business development consultant to small and medium-sized companies. As a consultant, she combines her 23 years as an active and reserve naval officer and her sales and marketing skills to assist her clients in their pursuit of DoD business. Ms. Santisteban also conducts government sales training seminars for companies and individuals new to the government market. Without further ado, I'll pass the call over to Jackie.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, everyone, for taking time this afternoon. I know it's a beautiful day out, or at least it looks like it. I haven't been out yet, and happy Easter. I'm going to take the attitude that most of you are new to government business, although I know that there's several of you that are with larger companies, and I'm sure you've been doing government business for a while. But we're going to kind of have a starting point where we're looking at it being new to most of you. I want to talk about some winning sales strategies. To be honest, there is no one thing that works. It's a combination of several things, and many people are involved. I know that when I work as a consultant and I work with companies, they're like, well, who's the decision maker? And they still want there to just be one person or one way to do it. And it's not like that. And having been involved with the military for as many years as I have, I personally have come to just accept most of the way it works. But for the average person who has not worked within the government or in the military, it's really frustrating to them initially because it seems so counterintuitive. Like most companies are out there to make a profit, the government's out there to spend money. And our job, I think, even as business people trying to sell to the government, is to always have the taxpayer in mind and give them the best solution and the best price and the best customer service that we can, so that that taxpayer dollar is spent wisely. So as a business selling to the government, and I always say government, military, because I deal with military the most, so I think of them almost as a separate entity, but they're part of government. You truly have to have a commitment and want to have this government business and want to grow it. Because it is a long sales cycle. It takes a considerable time, energy, people, resources, you name it. Sometimes just keeping yourself together when it seems so frustrating. So if you're not committed to it, it just typically does not work. And it is a 2 to 4 year sales cycle. And most people at the end of it, they're willing to put a year into it, maybe 6 months to a year. And at the end of the year, I've seen this so many times and too many times, is that they just lose patience and they want to quit. Well, they wasted a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and frankly, it's not good for them to do that. So I tell my clients, and I'm telling you guys, if you're to be successful selling to the government, you have got to be, again, committed, and you have to be patient. You just have to hang in there. And you have to have perseverance. You can't just call on people once. You're going to end up calling on several different people because, again, there's not just one decision maker. When I was recalled to active duty as a reservist, I remember working at the Bureau of Medicine, and it's like a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I'm kind of ready to go for the weekend, but all of a sudden we get something on our desk, and it's like 13 people have to touch this document. And so I told the captain I was working for that I'm like, I'll be happy, I'll stay and finish, work on it. But I'll bet you anything it'll come back almost in the same form. So 2 weeks later, and 13 people had touched it and rewritten it. It basically came back looking pretty much the same. So what I'm getting at with that example is there's a lot of different people that touch it, and you're going to have to meet with all those people, deal with those people, and try to come up with a solution so everybody's happy. And ultimately, it all works out. You need dedicated resources. It is a definite commitment. It can be up to $100,000, $150,000, for the first year, just to commit to putting people and the resources. You have to have the infrastructure. You have to be able to take the government credit cards. If you think you want to get a GSA schedule, that's going to cost money depending on the size of the company and the number of products. It can get, pricey. So you have to have that money that you can just commit before you're going to see a return of your investment. I think one of the most important things is having the right people in the right positions. I've worked with a client recently that, oh my gosh, I think they put 6 different people within 6 months as a government sales rep. And, you go out and you start getting things started with your customers, and all of a sudden that person's not there anymore. So now they've got another person they have to get used to. The smart thing to do would have been to make sure that they had the right person. But again, they were not patient. They wanted sales right away, and it just doesn't work like that. So it didn't matter. They put 6 people in the same position, and the results were the same. It just takes time to build those relationships to make sure you have the correct solution. Same thing for your contracting people. If you have large enough staff that you can have contracting people, you want to make sure you have the right contracting people in place, the right people in finance, the right people in writing your proposals. So once you have all that in place, it makes a huge difference, and you'll see that time and again you're going to be much more successful. But we're going to talk today, I'm going to really focus on having the basics in place. You'd be surprised at how many businesses, even businesses that have been, doing this for a while, they really don't have their basics in place. And, to be honest, I was kind of fly by the seat of my pants kind of person when I started doing my own business. I'm like, I'll just, it'll work. I'm going to go out there and see what happens. Well, I learned that you really do have to have the basics in place before you go out there to try to get business. One of the things is your business card. I know that sounds a little, kindergartenish almost, like a business card. What's a business card? But it's important to have a business card that speaks to the government. Your differentiators, extremely important to know those. Have your capability statement written and looking professional and good. A good sell sheet. A lot of companies have a web page or a website, but they don't have anything that indicates that they're doing government business. And they may not be doing government business right now per se, but you're planning on doing government business. So you, again, want to have everything in place to make it easy for the government to buy. And last but not least, the company overall probably has a business plan, but you need an absolute government-focused strategic plan with realistic goals, and then execute that plan, because a plan without execution isn't very useful. And I would welcome questions as we're going along, so please don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask me something. And if I can't answer it, then I will get back to you with the answer if it's something I can't answer immediately, but I will try to answer all your questions. Your business card as a marketing tool is important. Everybody wants a business card. They like having that. So on the front of your card, you want to make sure you have clearly the logo and wherever you want it on the front of your card, the name of the business or company, and then the point of contact information. Make sure you have the name and the title. Title's important so they kind of understand that you are geared toward government. Government likes to know that they're important. They're not just kind of the same as a commercial customer. They want to be that special government customer. They want to know that you're doing the same for all your government people. Your phone number, your email address, and then for the address, you can put your home address or your company address, whichever you prefer. It depends on who you're talking to. Sometimes if you put your home address, like I'm from Maryland, people are like, oh, you're from Maryland, and it gets conversation going. So you'd be surprised at those types of things. But on the flip side, if you want to put both, you can do that as well. Here's the really key part of your business card that most people don't do or most companies don't do. Have the information on the back of your card and then point that out when you're handing the government person, be it the contracting officer or the end user, the general, it doesn't matter who, just point it out and say, here's some information that I think will be helpful to you. So on the back of your card, across the top, you're going to put the name of your business or your company, because you always want to make sure people remember that. Then include your DUNS number and your cage code. If you have a GSA schedule or some other type of contract vehicle, put that number, and then just list the relevant, you might want to have more than one business card depending on how large your organization is or how many different types of business agents, or government agencies you're trying to target. So have your specific SIN numbers that are relevant to the customer that you're speaking to, and same thing with your NICS codes. At the bottom, you're going to want to put your website and make sure that's clear and easy to get to so they can see that. They love websites, trust me. They love them. So one of the most important things, and again, I want to backtrack for 1 second. I want to apologize if this is old information to some of you, but it's always good to review these things, and I'm hoping for some of the others it is new information. But I don't know a lot about your background, so I had to do more of a generic presentation. We want you to define and clarify your differentiators. This doesn't seem like it would be that hard, does it? But it is so hard. Again, every time I work with a company and I tell them this, and I've had a number of different clients, and it seems like none of them have clearly defined their differentiators. So that's where we almost always start. So you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to differentiate your company and your product or service, and that's going to help you create this dynamic, literally winning capability statement. So what are the rules of brand differentiation? You know, we always kind of like to think of, oh, let's break all the rules. Sounds like that would set you apart, right? Doing something different. You know, I'm clearly an out-of-the-box thinker, so I like doing things different. But you do have to follow the rules because your competitors are probably doing that. And they are probably not following the rules. So if you're doing it, that will set you apart right there. The first thing is that your differentiator must be true. A lot of people put stuff down on paper, or they present it when they are speaking to the group or the one or two people that they want to sell their products to. And they say a lot of things, but they're not always all true. So that's number one rule. Differentiator must be true. So you can't just make it up. You've got to have something that you can literally live up to. If you do promise and you fail to deliver on that, it really does damage your brand, or it damages your reputation, and you don't easily get another chance with the government. That first impression is so huge and so major. I can't stress that enough. But secondly, it needs to be important to your client or your customer. What is it they're looking for? What do they need? This isn't about kind of, you know, build it and they will come. Your mentality, your thought process has to be, how am I going to help them? What are they looking for? I'll be honest, sometimes they don't actually know. They have an idea, but they don't specifically know. And that's okay, we can get to that later, but you can help them with that. But make sure that what you're, you know, saying to them is important to them. And then it must be supportable. You've got to be able to prove it. And honestly, that's probably the biggest challenge. You know, it's like, oh, we give good customer service. Our customer service is the best. Well, how do you know that? How do you prove that? What are you basing that on? Because believe me, almost everybody says that. So if you sit down and you really brainstorm, you'd be surprised at what you can come up with and how you can truly support these differentiators. The 5 following steps will help you find a real differentiator for your business. And once you find it, then you've got to own it, because this is going to be your brand. This is going to be what makes you who you are and makes you an important asset and a trusted partner in that government relationship. So make conscious management decisions that differentiate your firm from the competition. You can decide how you want to be different. You might not right now feel like you are all that different, but sit down and decide, make that decision to be different. What are we going to do that's going to make us different? Maybe you're going to offer a better warranty, a longer warranty, and maybe you'll actually live up to that warranty. So often we think we have a warranty on something, and then you call in and you're like, oh, well, you know, this isn't included and that's not included. So that would be a really good way to be different. You actually have a warranty on your products and you actually adhere to it. Discover the characteristics that distinguish your firm. And again, for the most part, you don't want to create it, but you want to discover those, because you would be surprised when you really dig deep, and just those little things are so important and they can be so different. And that's an awesome way to set yourself apart. So do some research, though. You want to find out, how do you look out there in the marketplace? What is your competition doing? And try to understand, you know, your existing differentiators, and then what can you add to that? oftentimes companies misperceive their audiences or their customers' priorities. They also misperceive their relevance to the client needs, and sometimes they even misperceive who their competitors are. I think it's so crucial to understand your competition, not just a name, not just a product, really understand them, understand how they're going out there to do their business, who do they have the relationship with, and why are they getting the business if they are? What makes them different? And so the research empowers you to base your decisions on facts rather than hunches. You can go out and ask your existing customers what they like about you. What do they see about you that's different? And this doesn't have to be a government customer. It can be a commercial customer, especially to those of you that are new to government. You're not going to have a customer right now that's, purchased anything from you. But what you do have is yourself. And you have that relationship that you can build, and that's really important. So then after I don't know how many you're going to get. I usually say 3 to 5. Sometimes, I don't care if you only have one, if it's a really good differentiator, then that's the one. And that's what you're going to focus on, and that's how you're going to define your business in the government marketplace. And if you do have more than one, and hopefully you do, then how can you combine these to craft a unique identity? Consider the pros and cons, what type of business you actually want, and then consider where the opportunity and the true distinction lies. And that's going to help you find your differentiators as well. And then you might use them differently. So let's say you're an IT company and you're going after Homeland Security. You might use a differentiator for them than you would for the Army. So really carefully look at what you do, what your differentiator is, and how that's going to work with that business opportunity. Might be, something that somebody tells you, oh, I think, we heard so-and-so's buying or looking for such and such. Well, look at that specific opportunity and see if you need a different differentiator. So use them how you need to, combine them, use them separately, but really take the time to sit down and learn what they are. Once you've identified your differentiators, then you need to validate them in the marketplace. So you have to make sure that it's relevant and that you can really carry it out. Can you back it up? Again, we'll go back to the warranty. Okay, that's your differentiator. You have got a 5-year warranty on your product that no one else has. They usually have a 2 or 3 year. Now, it could almost go against you because somebody's going to say, well, gosh, if your product's so good, why do you need a 5-year warranty? Well, then you're going to add your other differentiator, which is the fact that in the 5-year study you did, you only received the product, 1% of your product back. But you feel so strongly on the value and the quality of your product, you're going to offer that warranty for that 5 years because you want to make sure that they always have the best product. So that's where you're going to back up your claim. And when somebody does call in and needs that warranty, needs to take advantage of their warranty, you're going to do it quickly, efficiently, just be different than those other companies. Then you're going to want to see if your competitors are taking a similar tack. Hopefully they're not, but if they are, then, kind of back to the drawing board, well, what are we going to need to do that's different? And it might just be that you send a technician out instead of having them send it in. I don't know what it's going to be, but, something that will make you different than that at that point. So again, make certain that what you've identified is true, relevant, and supportable. If you can't support it, it just isn't true. Once you've validated, then it's time to prove and reprove them every day. So it's not just one day that you're going to give good customer service. You're going to give good customer service every day. And again, you're going to define what that good customer service is to you. And you're going to define how that, quote, good customer service makes you better, or how having the best business development person in place makes you better or different than your competition. You're going to want to communicate that. So make sure that your customer understands that this is an important thing that you do, and make sure that they know what that thing is. It might be a person. It might be a number of different things. Ensure that your website and marketing materials describe, reflect, and prove your differentiators. I think that is so important. I look at a lot of different websites for a lot of clients, and I look at them and I start thinking, they just all look alike. And then I'll go to a conference and you pick up, you know, their sell sheet or their, quote, capability statement, and you're like, wow, this looks so homemade. You'd think they could have at least printed it on good cardstock. So it's make sure that all, you know, you've already come up with the fact that you're better and you're different. Make sure all your things that get out there in front of the customers, everything that the customer looks at and touches reflects that. And in fact, the way you talk to people, when you're talking to them, make it clear, not in like a quote, what do they call it, the elevator pitch, and I hate that word pitch, but just in your conversation to them, you can use examples of how you're different, and you'd be surprised at how people respond to that. So if no one knows it, it's not a differentiator. They're just going to think you're just, you know, blow Joe down the street. You do the same as they've heard every other company tell them they're going to do. So here's some other examples. Maybe you specialize in a certain industry. And if you don't, within that industry, is there a specific role that you would take in your client's organization, your customer's organization, that could set you apart? You can probably see this more with the large businesses that actually contract people out to some of the agencies or to the military. What do you specialize in? Do you specialize in human resources? You specialize in PR? What is it that you do that's specific to that client or that customer's organization that will make you better and different? Do you offer a truly unique technology or process? I have a client right now that I keep asking, we're just starting, and he has a training simulator for cybersecurity training. And I'm like, what makes you different? And he came up with a couple things, and then I'm like, are you the only one? And he said, I'm the only one that does what I do. And what I did that's different is I worked with the military to customize this so that they would get what they want. Still doesn't mean it's not going to be that's going to be an easy sell. It's not. But he's now got something that's unique. Plus, he is one of the best hackers in the world, so that doesn't hurt. But focus on understanding your target audience so that you can speak to them and meet their needs. Do you specialize in serving clients of a certain size? Maybe you like to just work with small agents, the smaller agencies, or the smaller groups within the agency. You've really done well on the military bases working with the locksmith, with locks or access control or hardware. That's what you specialize in. Or does all of your staff share a specific characteristic or credential? Maybe they're all certified on whatever, some type of software system. Maybe they all have master's degrees. Maybe they all have PhDs. So look for those type of differentiators. And then focus on solving a specific business challenge if you can. Again, you have to be more targeted in how you're doing this. So once you have your differentiators in place, then you're going to start your capability statement. And I wish this were live, because I would really like to find out how many of you have a capability statement, because I'm guessing if you've gone to the SAMI conferences and the small business conferences, you've listened to small business offices or your contracting officers over and over and over. They talk about wanting and needing that capability statement. That is your promotional or your marketing statement about your business, what you're capable of, what your skills are. It advertises who your company is, what it does, and why you're the best company to be hired. It's actually required when you work with the government. They're asking for that now in most cases with the RFPs. And so you're going to want just not one capability statement, you're going to want several. But it's also a good tool to have when you're want to work with this as a subcontractor to a company that's the prime contractor in a government contract. And we're going to go over what you're going to specifically need on the capability statement, so it's easy to read, so they can see what they need to see and do it quickly. Your capability statement components they comprise 5 different sections. First one will be your core competencies section. Second is going to be your past performance. And you may not have past performance for government, but you probably have some type of past performance. So you can use other things that you have done on the commercial side. Your differentiators, your corporate data, and your contact information. At the top of that 1 or 2 page document, you are going to have the word capability statement written at the top. And it's going to be, make sure everybody sees that, because that's how the government likes to see it. Your core competencies section is the most important section on that entire document. It explains who you are, explains what you do. It's critically important that all the words are written and are carefully chosen, and that everybody in your company is comfortable with this section before you proceed. And you might want to go to your mission statement or vision statement at the beginning if you have one. Not every company has one, but that tells you who you are, and you want to tell your government customer who you are, or your prime contractor who you are. Second is going to be your past performance. And I hear contracting officers talk about this a lot. This is pretty important to them. In your past performance section, your data points will be the client or customer name, the prime contractor's name if you were a subcontractor to that prime contractor. So you're going to put, you know, Holloman Air Force Base hangar renovation, and you were a subcontractor to Clark Construction. So you're going to put the client name, Holloman Air Force Base. The prime is Clark Construction. The project name was the hangar, something like that. And then just describe what you did for the project, the location of the project, the dollar value. They like to look at that, whether you're able to do a big project or small. The year that you completed or the dates of the project that may still be ongoing. And your federal contract number, if you were awarded a contract for this particular project, you're going to want to put that on. And then a really important thing is the references. If you have points of contact, either with that prime or with the client of the customer themselves, they like to have that. And then they also want the email and phone number, because oftentimes contracting officers are going to call them and see if you really do live up to what you say you can live up to. Next is going to be your differentiators section. And that's that's your opportunity to communicate to the customer the results of that, all that research you did and all that validation you did to make sure that you have those differentiators. And it's going to send that clear message to the government customer, contracting officer, prime vendor, end user, whoever you're going to use this for. And these are all similar, but you can think about each of them and why choose us? Why would you want to use us? If you were that contracting officer, would you hire you? What advantage do you give them? Again, what sets you apart? What is it that you're going to do different? And this unique selling proposition, I think those are pretty similar, but you'll see them written different ways, so that's why I put those all in. But this one I think is really important. What results do you deliver? Do you do what you say you're going to do, or do you just barely give them the results that they're looking for? But then how show that, we did such and such, or certain client or customer needed this and this, and we gave them that and more. You can somehow explain that, how you gave them what they needed and wanted, but went a little bit above and beyond. Are you trustworthy? How do you show that you're trustworthy? And that's going to basically be by experience. You're going to have some past, again, your past performance where you were that trusted partner and you gave them what they needed and you did a good job of it. So how did you show it? And then anything a customer has said, probably don't want to include anything bad if there's something bad, but for sure, if there's something that good that they really liked it because you got the project done faster, or you got it done under budget, or you showed up on a Saturday and didn't charge for it, or the wall fell down when it was being built and you brought the people needed to get it all put back up and keep them on time. Anything that you've done to make a customer happy. The last section is going to be your corporate or your company profile. And in here, you're going to include the name of the founder of the company. If you're a large company, it would, put your CEO. The number of years in business. It might be new. That's okay. Put that down. Your legal structure, if you're an LLC, if you're, whatever type of legal structure you have for your company. What's the purpose of your company? What's the problem that you solve is how you're going to think of that. Your company website, address. Again, you're going to want your DUNS number and cage code. Certifications, are you, HubZone, are you 8A, woman-owned? But if you've got, and then your NICS codes, if you have a lot of them, again, remember, you should just be specific to what business you're going for, what business opportunity you're going for. So you're going to have more than one capability statement. You can't have the same one for everybody. And then last, if you have a GSA schedule or other contract number. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The contact section is going to be, I like to see it in a little box off to the corner, but you can do it however you want. Be sure to list the correct person as a point of contact. There's times when people put a point of contact and nobody can get a hold of them. You want to make sure that you put somebody that still works for the company and that they can get a hold of, and that they can get a hold of easily. Again, the other option here is to put it across the bottom of the page. And it can read contact us or contact, or you don't even need to put that. If you just want to put the title, the name, your cell phone, office number, and the email. So number 4, I just showed it there, and then on 4, I just put what you should put or what you should have on there. So you've got your capability statement pretty much done. And again, when you're doing these, it's really hard to do it by yourself. Don't do it by yourself. You're going to want to have a group of people that you can feed off each other. You're going to want to either use a professional proofreader or an online proofreader such as www.grammarly.com. Have others in your company look at it. If you have, your end user may even be, if you have a good relationship with them, or they may look at it. I would actually have them look at it as well. Just have them proofread it and see if it gives them the information they're looking for. Make sure you pay attention to punctuation. There's an example of a professor that wrote a statement on the board and then asked his students to rewrite it using punctuation. The statement was, "A woman without her man is nothing." Well, the results after was written with the punctuation. Some of the students wrote, "A woman without her man is nothing." Some of the other students wrote, "A woman without her man is nothing." So you can see how the punctuation and where you place it puts a whole different spin on it, a whole different emphasis. So make sure you're very careful. I had a client that hired somebody for government sales that wrote an email to a lot of the large A&E firms, and he wrote the word effect, but he put affect instead of effect. And one of them wrote back and said, "You need to learn how to write, and you need to learn what a word means before you send this out." So this doesn't happen real often. Most of the time they're just going to talk about it amongst themselves and say, "Boy, they're dumb. They don't know what they're talking about." So make sure you're really careful when you do these and have the punctuation, spelling, everything's correct. Make it easily identifiable as being from your company. You're going to want a look, maybe a color scheme, or it might be your logo always is in the same place on your sales sheet, your capability statement, your website. You're going to want somebody to be able to look at this and say, "Oh, I know that's company ABC." Use a color or other simple methods to draw attention. Again, you want to keep it simple. Make sure it's easy to navigate. One page is a little bit better, but 2 is okay. But if you're going to do 2, it should be front and back. And if you want to list your products, if that's important to this business opportunity to have those products listed, then if you have a 2-page, I would say put those products on the back. And also if you have a long list of NICS codes, put them on the back. You could put a little indicator on the front of the capability statement that your NICS codes are on page 2. But again, only put things that are relevant. And then make sure you include a specific point of contact. As I said before, make sure it's the right point of contact. And then have it in a form that can be easily modified, because you're going to want to have different capabilities. I apologize if I'm repeating this. I know I am. But it's something that's important to have people understand, that you're going to have more than one. And you want to be able to convert it easily to a PDF file, because contracting officers like to have it in a PDF file. Create a wow factor. When somebody looks at it, you want to get their attention, and you want them to say, "Wow, this is really professional. This is really well done. This is simple. I can see what they're doing here," and they really are different. So tailor each to the agency mission or the specific opportunity. And you don't want long paragraphs, just short sentences with keywords. Use bullet points for those keywords. And the file should be kept under 1 megabyte. Keep the margins small. You can spread out on the whole page. It'll allow you to have more content, and it'll still be easy to read, and it'll look really nice. Here's an example of a before and after. The before looked kind of nice. I kind of liked it. But I think the after looks a lot better. I don't still don't think it's perfect. These are some examples that I've taken of ones I've seen or I've gotten them out of, books. I think the second one, there's a little bit too much information about the president. I would have done that differently, kind of down at the bottom, and I would have made sure that I had it laid out in a little bit better format. But the reason I put that one is I like the coloring. I like how it pops. I think it looks really nice. It looks clean. I like it. This is one I don't like. It's pretty dull and boring. It has got so much information. And as soon as I see this, my first thought is, oh, another one of those that thinks they can be everything to everybody. And they probably can be. And they probably do every one of these things really, really well. But I would suggest that if you have something like this, that you take it and just use the few things that you need for that specific agency or that specific solicitation or a specific marketing event you're going to be at, and try to keep it more simple. Because again, I hear that from contracting officers. They say nobody can be a jack of all trades. We want someone that can do a few things and do them well. And like I said, I'm guessing this company does all these things well. They just need to pare it down a little bit to make it more specific. And then they need to put a little bling to it, make it, make the format different. This is one of my favorites. I don't like the pictures quite as much, but at the top it should say capability statement. That's obviously the mission statement. And instead of capabilities, it should say differentiators. But I like the way they put the client benefit. I think that's a nice format and a nice thing to put. We say we can do this. This is our differentiator, or this is our core competency. How does that benefit the client? How does that create a solution for a problem that they have? This one's sort of dull and boring, but it gives good information. So it doesn't have pictures, and I think we all kind of like pictures. So I think it could, they could have been better served by putting some pictures in, but they labeled it. They put their core services or core competencies, their differentiators. They made it clear, what they are. And so it's as dull and boring as it is, it gives the good information. So look at all three, take what you like out of each of them, make sure they're in the correct format where everything's labeled. Across the top, it says capability statement. I literally have had a hard time when I take examples of what I've seen out there that anybody does it exactly right. So you can be the first. It would be great. Capability statement is your dynamic and your critical document. And it can bring new opportunities to you, especially if you're a small business. So, and each time you submit for a government bid, you're going to make sure that you have that included. And I would also include it on the website, and when I talk about a website later, I'm going to have that as one of the bullet points. I would always have that capability statement on the website. Your sell sheet, again, similar to your capability statement, but not exactly the same. Best to be a one-page document again. You can use the front and back. You use pictures that are relevant to the government audience. If that's obviously going to be your customer, so you're going to want to put a picture there or a logo or a symbol of something that speaks to them. Maybe it'll be I don't care if it's a flag or it's you're going to the healthcare within the military, you might want to put a hospital. You might want to put a patient on a gurney. Make sure they're in camis, but make it easy to read. And it might require larger print. I was at the JETSI last spring in Phoenix, and I believe the gentleman was retired, but he had been in, he worked for Army Corps of Engineers, as I recall. And he said, why can't anybody, any company ever get this right? He's like, I want to see a leave behind or sell sheet that just gives me the pertinent information that I need, but it's in big enough print because I can't read it anymore. And I don't always have my glasses. And I tell you, I'm starting to need reading glasses, and I so get what he's saying. So have your print larger. If you have to put less words, do. Just put the important things. You don't need all, you want to get their attention. You don't have to give them everything. You want to get them to want to do business with you, to want to talk to you. Make sure they can read it, because if they can't read it, they're just going to throw it off to the side, and you've wasted a lot of money, time, and effort. And I always recommend having it professionally printed. Use a high-quality cardstock, or I kind of like the glossy look. If you want to have a folder and have different cell sheets in there, it's kind of cool when you tier them, and then people can see, this product is good for this situation, this one's good for that. That looks really nice too. Again, with your NICS codes, a lot of companies have a lot of them. They probably should go on the back if you have a long list. Your specific point of contact, just like on your capability statement, make sure it's the right person. You can box it in again or put it down at the bottom. And even your cell sheet, you're going to want to put in a PDF form or in something that can be easily modified. And then make sure that it's something that can be emailed to your government customer or your potential government customer. They like to, oftentimes they will ask you to email that. They'll either ask for your cap statement, your capability statement, and or your cell sheet. And make sure the information you include is pertinent to the government. I've had clients that have, they just never make it pertinent to the government, and when I see that, I'm like, we have to change that. You have to make them be valued and see the value. And not only that, they want to know who you sold to. They like to have your, know who they can talk to or call if they need to, and they want to know that it was a military. They'll always say like, oh, well, that's great, you did such and such, but that doesn't mean anything to me because we're different. We're different. We're not the same as commercial. So speak to your customer. And if you have any government projects, be really specific about those. And they're gonna, it's little things like this that really make a difference and really do help you get business more quickly, and you'll be surprised at the difference that these things make. This is a cell sheet that I actually helped my client with, and we're going to do the capability statement now. I think we're still going to make some changes to this, but when he initially did it, it was gray. It had so many words on it, and none of it was pertinent. It was pertinent to the commercial world, but not to the government, and we really pared it down and cleaned it up, put a little color on there, and I like the gray and yellow. I think it's a nice theme. So for the website and for the cell sheet, we're going to do the same type of theme. And his thing that was really important was his building blocks here, where they can, take a block out here and put it there, so they can customize the software, they can customize the training, they can customize the scenarios. So we really wanted this to stand out. And, the colors are a little different, but I think it gets their attention. And then we included a military person here so the government knows it. And we didn't have room. We wanted to put logos of the Army, because he's working with the Army and the Marines right now. I wanted to put that, but he also has some government agencies, so we just opted not to put the logos. But it is okay to put logos if they are your customer. It's Homeland Security, say it's Department of the Navy. If you can get them off the if they're online, you can use those. if you have a GSA schedule, I would definitely, he does not, but I would definitely put that GSA logo. It is okay to use that. Make sure you put that information like right up here. It's always kind of nice. But we included his cage code, Ben's number, and he's really new to this, so this will be a dynamic document. We will definitely be making changes as we go, but he needed something quickly, and what we did was try to look at the problems or the situations that the government is facing right now. What are their challenges? And then how can Aries help them and overcome those challenges? This was considered a capability. This was a capability statement. I don't really. I love the format. I really like it, but it should have been different. You know, the company profile is good. I think the pictures are, you know, really grabbers. The product should not have been listed. That should have been their core competencies, their differentiators, and then so they just labeled things wrong, but they had the right idea. I liked it. But I would take this. This was the front, and then this was the back. They put a lot of actually nice pictures to really show what their products do. But I think I would use this more as a spell sheet than a capability statement. And then I would take this and just change the front, and I wouldn't have the back on with all the products. I don't think that's important. They did put the GSA logo up here, which was good. And then they have the schedule and all their information down here. So there's some good things about it that I really, truly liked. It definitely grabbed my attention. Your website, again, I think you should have it professionally done if you can afford it. It's worth it. And it's pretty cheap now. It's your face to your customer. The government looks at websites all the time, and they really do. Make sure that you have a tab for government. Again, when I get clients or I'm looking at websites for businesses, and I know they're doing government with business with the government, but it doesn't say it. There's no tab. There's nothing where, if I were a government customer, I wouldn't be able to go to it and say, oh, they've got it at 5 other bases. Or they might say, we're with the Department of Navy. We have business with the Department of Navy. Well, the Department of Navy is really big. So what are your specific projects? What are your specific customers within there? List your projects, list the products, and how that product was a solution for the government customer. What problem did it solve? What was the challenge that the government had and that you were able to fix or could fix if they, you know, in the future? Make it easy for them to buy from you. You always want to make their job easier. Listing your SIN numbers is helpful. And one of the things that's interesting, a client a few years ago, I went to Balboa Naval Hospital, and I met with the contracting or the procurement officer there, and she's like, well, let me look them up. So she did. She looked up the company, only to realize that they had made no changes to their GSA schedule, no changes to their SINs, no changes to anything. Not only did they not make any changes recently, because it's always good to make one little change because it'll make you pop up sooner when they're looking for companies to send out a request for information or request for bids. But they were in the wrong. They had the wrong SIN numbers and so forth. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the U under make it easy to buy from you, and I went through this 3 times. I still have the typos. So that's what you want to avoid. That's why it's good to always have somebody else look at it. And so she's like, if you make those changes, then people that need that product, they're going to be able to find them. And that was a good learning lesson for me as well. I learned a lot from that. And that's okay. You can go out, you know, your customers are going to sometimes, they need to tell you what they need from you. On your website, you're going to make sure that they have the right point of contact, and know who you want to sell to and gear it to that agency. And then on your website, clearly define each agency that you want to sell to, and it might only be 3, it might be 10, it might be 1, and put the information on there that's relevant to them. Include your capability statement in the PDF form, and again, have your color theme, your logo, your format all matching for your sales sheet, capability statement, and website, if you can, or as close to it as you can, so that you have recognition. They can recognize your company as having a particular look or a particular theme. So here's what I find are the winning strategies for selling to the government. Do your homework and research before your meeting, because you got everything in place now. You're good to go. You are set. You've got all your basics. Now you're going to go to the meeting. Make sure you know who's going to be at that meeting. Research them if you can. Most, especially military people, higher ranks for sure, almost always have a bio online. Learn about them. Don't use your status as an 8A or a woman-owned small business to get business. I heard one of the small business, or the Army Corps, somebody from a small business speak at a conference, and she said, nothing irritates me more than just their cocky attitude. They think, oh, I'm an 8A, so you need to buy from me. She's like, no, I don't need to buy from you. I really don't. And there's a lot of 8As out there I can buy from. Go in there and, be humble and follow up with them, because they want to feel important too. They want to feel like they actually care. I know when I'm buying something, and I don't want somebody to just tell me about it once and then ignore me. If they really want to sell it to me, then it's up to them to come back to me. It's not up to me to come to them. And that's how the government looks at it too. If you really want this, you're going to call on them 5 to 6 times. You're going to once a month just check in, see how you're doing, or look up something new that might be happening with that agency or that particular office. Maybe it's a program executive office. Stay on top of things. You have to be patient. It truly is a 2 to 4 year sales cycle. What I've seen though, it's almost like magic. If you have the right person getting out there and doing business development and getting out there to see the right people, after 6 months, you might get lucky. You might get a little bit of business. At the end of a year, you'll get a little bit more. But that 2-year mark, that's where it seriously is almost like magic. And it's so amazing, it's so wonderful. It's like all these puzzle pieces have gone together, and all of a sudden, you're seeing it. And I know that was a lot of time and effort and money to invest, but it comes back in spades if you stick with it. The 4-year cycle where that comes in, once in a while, it takes actually that long or sometimes longer, but that's more unusual. It's usually the 2-year mark. But if you don't nurture it at that 2-year mark, if you just get kind of cavalier and like, oh, well, they'll just keep buying from me, your business is very likely going to go down. So you have to nurture those relationships. You have to look at your current customers and not worry so much about contracts. Think about relationships. The relationships turn into contracts. Get help where you need it. If you're a really small business, you can't be expected to hire somebody for everything. Get contract employees or people like me who are have their own business that take on more than one client. Find somebody that can help you on a temporary, even an hourly basis, like with your website or your capability statement. You can't be expected to do it all. Get a good business development person, but have realistic and reasonable expectations. You can't expect to sell $5 million in a year if you haven't sold anything to the government and your typical contract award is $5,000. It's just not going to happen. So have realistic goals, but absolutely have goals. Make sure you have that target. You know what your sales goal is and how you want to reach that. And you always want to have, if it's a larger company, make sure your leadership or your executives are involved and informed. Because if they're not on board, it's not going to work. I've seen it over and over. I have to be passionate. Like, I truly love what I do. I love going out there with my clients. I like getting in front of the customer. I speak to speak when, the military, and they have a certain respect for me, and I have a respect for them. And if you don't have passion, I think it's really hard to sell to the government. You have to really love it because it is ungodly frustrating, and it is not easy. I think this is a really important one. You have to listen to your customer and ask questions. So many people are afraid to ask questions, or they don't know what the right question to ask is. And that just takes experience and oftentimes being part of the system where you know what questions to ask. So if you don't know, it will help. Have somebody go with you that does know how to do it. Don't vomit information. There's nothing that I hate worse than somebody who just feels like they've got to get all their information out about their product or their service in the first 10 seconds. Nobody wants to hear all that. They want you to do a little chit-chat, get to know them, look at, if you see a picture that's something important to them, and then tell them that you're there to learn. You just are trying to pick their brain. You want to get some information. I guess I wouldn't use that term necessarily. You want to understand their situation and see if there's a fit for your product. If there isn't, can you create a fit? Can we do something differently to make things better for you? What do you need? What would make your life better, your life easier? What's going to save some money for the government, although I know they're not always interested in saving money. They pretend to be, but they would probably rather save man hours, and that is important to them than, the word money. That's not quite as important. And they're always going to say they don't have funding, and they might not during that time, but they often, 9 times out of 10, they will get funding, or there's ways to get funding. If they really want it, they're going to find a way to get that funding. Follow-up is critical. Follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. Again, 5 to 6 calls with that particular customer before they have they gain, or you gain their trust, and you become a valued partner.
And
join
Jackie,
associations.
I'm sorry. If I in real quickly on that?
Oh, please do.
Mention maybe the timeline for follow-up and being mindful of maybe the time of the year, especially towards the last quarter.
Absolutely. Yeah. I recommend at least once a quarter to follow up, and sometimes more often when you're trying to get things established. One of my clients had just started with the Ability One program and Skillcraft, and a lot of people, know that word, but they don't really understand it. So initially we had to follow up with our select target audience more often. And then as they got to understand it, then it was more like once a quarter. But yeah, I look at it like the fiscal year starts in October, so you can start some of your marketing then. There's not going to be money then. January, February, you're going to see a little bit more money coming in, another good time to, touch base with them again. March, April, the money's starting to come in now. So you want to make sure that if it's like a small business and you don't have to go out to bid and it's just going to be a PO, just make sure they have all the information that they need, so when they're ready to do that PO, they can do it quickly and easily. And then end of year money. Boy, and more we're seeing that that's the most important time. And that's, it starts in July. Clearly in September, you're going to see the biggest flow of that money. I was recalled to active duty as a reservist, and I was a training officer, and this is when I first went in the reserve. And we had no money for training. There wasn't anything I could ever accomplish because we never had money. And so I got recalled to active duty, like I said, and all of a sudden in September, like the 20th of September, I can't remember how much money I got. I got a lot. And I had to spend that money in 2 or 3 days. And I wish, looking back, that I had had all the information I needed from certain vendors, so it would have not been so hard for me to spend that money, because it was painful. So make it easy for them to buy from you. Make sure that they have your DUNS number, your cage code, everything that they're going to need. And sometimes that end of your money, like on September 30th or 29th, 28th, somewhere in there, they start with that money and they start divvying it out, and they start on the East Coast and they go west. And I had one client that their first sale that they got was because of that end of your money. They had called on Camp Pendleton. They did like staging, and they had a big auditorium and they needed a curtain. But they had called on them at some point and left their, marketing pieces behind. And this guy had to spend that money, and so he pulls his drawer open and he looks like who's in there, and whoever answered their phone got that money, got that PO. And somebody happened to be in the office at 11 o'clock at night, and that's how they got their first government contract. So kind of a pattern to that, and that's an important pattern, I think. Again, you're going to want to join associations, go to the right trade shows, speak at conferences, write articles so people know who you are, so the government people know who you are. Attend government industry days. They're becoming more and more important. Government wants the vendors to come to them at a specific time, specific location, where they can see them all, answer all their questions, because, quote, there's a hiring freeze right now, so there's less people, and they want to, be more efficient. And I wanted to end my presentation with this. This is what I call a non-winning strategy for selling to the government. Frankly, just my little grandson, he's 2 years old, and he unfortunately needs glasses, but he can now watch TV well because he can see the TV. And he's just sitting there chilling out with his hands folded and kind of just, waiting patiently for the video of cars to come on. But I couldn't resist taking a picture, and I thought, I see this so often. People think they sit back, oh, I'm an 8A. I'm a woman-owned small business. I've got a Juice schedule. I'm just going to sit here and, I might even just watch TV or watch a video, or I will likely sit in my office. And the government's going to call me because they have a lot of money and they buy everything. So I'm just going to sit here. Well, it just doesn't work. It's adorable. Grafton looks really cute sitting there with his hands folded, waiting for his car video. But, he wouldn't sell much to the government doing that. And with that, I'm going to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Here's my, contact information. I know Nicole's going to make sure you all get these slides. If it was repetitive, I apologize, but I find that people need to hear it several times for it to really click. Make sure you have all those basics in place, and then go out there and pursue that government business, and I know you will be successful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jackie. I know that we have a couple questions that were sent in prior to the presentation start today. And I've got another one in here as well. So one of them is, my company has been pursuing government business for almost a year, but we have not been awarded any contracts as of yet. We were told it'd be easy to get a government contract because they have a lot of the money and that they buy most of everything. What is your comment on that?
Well, it's sort of just what I've said. A lot of people go after RFPs. They'll sit in their office and they go to FedBizOps, and I'm not saying these are bad. They are really actually very good, and they're good for a lot of reasons. You can find out what an agency bought in the past. You can find out what they're looking for. You can see the opportunities that are coming up. But by the time that RFP comes out, they likely know who they're going to go with. On occasion, they probably will just go out to bed and they will pick, choose from that. But most of them already have picked. They have to have the statement of work written around the specifications of a specific company so that they can buy from them. And the reason for that is because that company has gone out there and looked for the business, they pursued the business, They were different. They gave them, they had a answer, they had a product that would fix this, was an answer, was a solution. I'm sorry, I've been talking too much here. There was a solution to a problem, and so they are going to get that award. If that's how you want, if that's the only way you're going to market to government, I don't think you're going to be very successful. And it will take you a long time to see an award.
Well, that was another follow-on question that we had, and that is, when can we expect to see an award? And you kind of touched on that. You mentioned that that 2-year mark seems to be kind of a good time for that. But I guess the follow-on is, how do you recommend that firms approach and describe their private sector or other local and state government work and try to apply that to the federal sector so that they can be deemed responsive on these contract opportunities?
Oh, you can absolutely put that as your past performance, and they do look at that. So I would include that in the capability statement. I would include it. I would, it's always good just be really honest with your government customer. We have not done it for the federal government, but we have done it for the state government, or we have done it in the private sector. And we'd be happy to give you information on that project and how it went. And it was a similar situation to you, and we did this, this, and this. So absolutely use that past performance. It doesn't all have to be government business.
Excellent. And then we talked about a couple of the different roles and whatnot. Obviously, the government, both on the military side and the civilian side, they have a lot of different roles and responsibilities assigned to the people. So one of the questions is, when you say you need to meet with the right people in the right jobs, what do you mean by that? And I guess, again, a follow-on to that is, how do you know you're talking to the right person?
Oh, the right person within the government, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not always talking to the right person the first time. I do a lot of cold calling with my clients, and I like it because I can get on the base, and I typically know where we need to start. And I will go in, like say it's Public Works, and I will go into one of the offices and say, I'm just looking for the environmental person. I'm on the base, just wanted to talk to them a little bit, and they're so nice. They really are. 9 times out of 10, I'll start talking to somebody and they'll say, well, I'm not the right person, but this person is the one that does that. And so that's one way to do it. Or you can make some phone calls. Ask people, make a phone call. It could be totally the wrong person, but ask that person if they know who does whatever it is you want to, sell to. Maybe it's somebody where you do remediation. Who's the one that's responsible for remediation? So they will get you to the right people, and there are a lot of right people. As I said in the beginning, there isn't just one decision maker. There's going to be, oftentimes have to do a top-down, bottom-up approach. They're going to go to the end users. You're going to go, sometimes you have to go to the commanding officer of the base so that you have his or her buy-in, and they're always a good advocate for you, but they don't have the funding, and they don't make those decisions typically, but they do bless it. So, and then you need to get to your contracting officer, and they're harder to get to, I admit that, but you want to talk to them as well. So there's a lot of right people. There's not just one. And sometimes it takes a little while, but again, that's where that patience and perseverance comes in. But you also want to have the right people in place in your company too. You want to have a good business development person. You want to have a good contract person, a good person that can respond to RFPs. Always respond to those like requests for information, because that's how the government knows you're out there. A lot of people look at them like, oh, I don't want to waste my time. No, it's not a waste of time. Respond to them.
Excellent. I think that that wraps up a lot of our questions here. One of the items that I was going to mention, and I guess I wanted to bring it to attention just for everyone as well, is that taking a look at some of the historical spending can kind of give a good direction as well too with respect to identifying the right clients to pursue. And a lot of that can be done via government-provided and managed websites. And that's just something that, I don't know if you want to elaborate on, Jackie, but that is something to consider too.
Oh, I absolutely am a complete advocate of that. Even if the contract's been awarded, go look at the contact people on that contract and who was it? You know, call that contracting officer and ask who the project manager was. Sometimes they won't give you that information, but they usually will. And then talk to that contract or to that project manager and find out, and like you were saying too, you can also see how much was spent on that project. So going forward, they're probably going to spend the same amount when it comes up for renewal, maybe more, but you'll know that. But look at what they're buying and then find out who the project manager is and start marketing to that person, because on occasion, and it has happened, whoever was awarded the contract, they might go out of business because they might have lowballed it, or they might not have good performance, and they actually do, within a year, look for another contractor for that, or another awardee for that contract. But I hope that answered the question. If it didn't, but I think that's a good resource and a good way to see who's buying what.
I would agree, and the other element, just to make reference there, is that a lot of the times the agencies will share different contracts and then use in-house teams to help support it for different projects throughout the U.S.
Right.
And but making sure you know where the contract is out of is always pretty valuable. Now, we do have another question that came in. It says the work that we do with many of our projects is very sensitive, and we cannot always discuss or talk about it with the client. How would you suggest a tab on the website that would be approved with an access code to enter and to read the sensitive information?
Well, that's interesting, because I think I'm going to run into that with my current client, because a lot of it is, you know, not for everyone to see. I think, I just want you to read that to me again. So a tab on their website, right?
Yeah, it would be approved with an access code to enter and read the sensitive information.
Yeah.
Posting.
Boy, that's a really good question. I'm not a technical person, unfortunately, but I would think that you could have it set up so that only specific people can get to that information. And then you would, you know, obviously when you're talking to your government person, if they have to have a certain clearance, you would know that already. And then I would give them that code so that they could get into it. And how you would word that, I have to think about that a little bit. Maybe see contact person so-and-so for information on access to this information. Because you don't want to just like make them think that they can't get the information, period, because then they're going to go look somewhere else where they can. But have them actually have a contact person that could discuss that with them. But I'm not technical, so that's the only way I could think of doing it.
Another element, too, just for consideration, I believe that in the event that you are posting anything sensitive, obviously certain data controls have to be in place, and whether it's classified or non-classified or controlled or any of those instances, FAR is coming out with new requirements, and that would be something just to monitor to make sure that you are in compliance with. If it's information that I believe the company has developed and it's proprietary to them or original content from them, there is a little bit more ability to share that over certain networks or mediums online, even with access codes and whatnot. But in the event it's government-controlled data that is being provided to them, or it has any instance of sensitive or controlled natures, that you might want to consult the FAR and other cybersecurity requirements that have been coming out.
Yeah, that was a great question. That was a great question, and thanks for helping me out with that one, because that was good. I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and just as a comment, you know, the manufacturing community is starting to see that now as well. They're coming out with the new 2017 cybersecurity elements, and a lot of what I think we've been doing in the AE and C industries here has been not as much controlled, even though we do have access to a lot of facility-oriented diagrams, documents, and whatnot, and the government's really wanting to get a hold of that. So we're going to probably start to see a lot more of that in the near future here.
Interesting.
I don't know if we have any additional questions at this time. Jackie, do you want to provide us with maybe any closing thoughts here, and then we'll wrap up?
I think that to really be successful at government sales, you have to have reasonable expectations, and you definitely have to set goals. I tend to go back to examples of people or companies that I've worked with. When I start with them and I ask them, well, what are your goals? What's your target? They literally don't know. They just have no clue. If you want to go after the government business, really think through it and make sure that you are capable of doing it. You've got all the resources in place that you need. You're going to add to them. Everything's dynamic. It's going to change, but you have to have your basics. So make sure that it is a market you truly want to pursue, because it's expensive in a lot of ways to pursue it until you start getting business. Be prepared for that. So have your goals be realistic and attainable. And I think you're going to do really well. It just takes hard work, but it's fun. I love it. You'll love it too once you start getting business, or you get more business. It always makes everybody want to go back for more. If you have any questions, though, you can feel free to contact me on my email or cell phone. I'd be happy to answer anything for you or delve into something more, give you more examples of something that if you have any need for that, I'd be happy to do that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you. And well, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And good luck, everyone.
At this time, on behalf of the SAME and the Small Business Council, we do appreciate everyone's participation and hope that this webinar has been useful. If you have any additional questions with respect to SAME, our training opportunities and whatnot, please submit them via email to Nicole Matthews at nmatthews@same.org. This concludes the webinar. You may now disconnect and have a wonderful day.